Hey guys, this is my presentation and it's going to be titled Sonic Consequences. We'll get into that in just a little bit. So specifically I'm going to be talking about game audio and The Last of Us Part 2 by the production company Naughty Dog. This is a video I've titled Pong to Present, just to give us a little bit of a context on where we're at in terms of game audio.
Hey, baby, welcome to my cool pad. Make yourself comfortable. Have a biscuit, baby.
Yeah! It's a new record!
That was a close one, Snake. Ocelot, you'll pay for that.
Help me!
Watch out!
You gonna use that rope or not?
Easy!
You picked a bad time to get lost, friend.
It's in the food.
It would help me if you would hold the light up so I could see where I'm shooting.
These have been here. Fancy a wee stroll. There's something over there.
Bless me with sight.
Fire.
And so I hope that gives you a good context on how far we've come from Pong that had 128 bytes of memory to the game we're talking about today, which has 100 gigabytes, which is over 80 million times more. Here's a little bit of just talking about the awards that the game has gotten. Specifically, the ones I think that are massively relevant are the audio awards, and particularly in the Game Audio Network Guild Awards and the Game Developers Choice Awards for Best Audio. I think that shows that they are held in high regard within the industry. So I'm breaking the skills that the game audio team have down to three. Okay, so there's Foley and sound design, storytelling, and audio implementation. And we're going to get into these in just a little bit. So here's a little bit of the Foley video, just a little bit about how that they made the videos, or how they made the Foley. So here you see, or in the video, you just saw some very, very creative thinking about how to attain certain sounds that perhaps don't exist in the real world, like this character or creature creation that they use these bellows with, like, you know, some sort of sludge in it, you know? So something that's really important to a Foley artist is thinking outside the box to create these sounds. You know, you need creativity, you need to know how to record, and you need to know how to process. You know, you might be slowing things down to give it more weight, or pitching things up to make it a smaller creature. There's a study that Botcher and Sarafin did where they created two games, one with synthetic sounds, generated sounds, and one with samples with Foley. And they observed that people were much more experimental with their movement in the synthetic sound game. And I kind of draw a different conclusion to this in that the other game with the Foley sounds kind of grounds people into reality. And I think that that's really important for particularly this game. And we'll get into that in just a little section. Just a little quote up the top that I want to touch on as well is even the most even the greatest and most satisfying sound, dialogue, or music will be diminished with too much repetition. And that's kind of the difference between Foley in film and Foley in games, is that we're going to be doing these things over and over again. Audio implementation. So Jonathan Lanier states that his main goal is to empower the sound designers. And I've done a little symbol on the left here of a funnel. And I think that implementation is the middleman. So everything funnels through implementation into the game. Just a little bit about Lanier. He states that in this podcast, they're way past putting one-shot sounds on game objects. So that kind of states back to that talk about repetition in Foley. Now, the storytelling, which is where everything kind of comes together. There's a little quote here from a medical paper about survival and hearing, and it says, "Hearing is the only sensory system that allows us to know what is going on everywhere in our environment." Now, our protagonist has a fear of heights, and there is this element of sonic consequences in that we hear her breathing heavily when she approaches a cliff. And then when she's in stealth mode, she breathes through her nose, and we can hear that difference as well. And then there's another element of her being fatigued when she's running for a long time. Her breath gets shorter and shorter, and until she relaxes. And we'll see a little bit of that in this next clip. Now, what's unique about all three of these skills and how they applied it to this game? Well, I think it's that perfect storm of the game genre, kind of this element of sonic consequences being so quintessential to the actual game. It's almost listen to win. If you don't listen, you won't survive. And I think that that kind of makes this listening mandatory, and something that, you know, a skill that is, game audio is often completely invisible if they do it right. No one ever talks about it because it just sounds as it should, you know. It's only ever talked about when it's bad. And I think that this game created that perfect concoction where people had to acknowledge it, they had to listen. Now, a little bit about reflecting on my own practice. I think in terms of Foley, here's me with my new gear on the right-hand side. I've just got a Rode NT1, and I'm just going to try and do Foley more than using libraries, which is what I've currently been using for, you know, I don't know, all my projects in the past. I think I'm going to try and just use Foley just to try and perfect this craft because it's so important. And now, in terms of audio implementation, you know, Jonathan Lanier, as I touched on earlier on, said 15 years ago, games at Naughty Dog were hard scripted, and the audio designer would have to ask a programmer to change everything. And he goes on to say that that has completely changed it up now. And he gives praise to Bo Jimenez, who is a sound designer who designed the glass shattering system in the game. And he praises him for having this knowledge of coding and scripting. And I think I've taken this on board, and I'm doing some courses, some self-directed learning on particularly C Sharp, but with a view to do C++, and to just gain a basic knowledge of it, and maybe more than a basic knowledge of it in the future. So in terms of storytelling, I think that what I've learned from this game is to root all of my sound design in the narrative of the game. You know, how can I bolster the effect of the story? You know, how can I influence the story, and how does the story influence me within sound design? Yeah, listen, thank you very much for listening to the presentation. I hope you guys play the game if you haven't.